What's poppin', people? It's Dante. Check out the beautiful sky here in the morning. I'm along the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Just came from the Schuylkill River Trail. I just love to walk around the trail by the river, and I wrap around here. And yeah, if you stand right here, it's actually a great place to catch the sunrise when it peers beyond the horizon towards the Benjamin Franklin Bridge. You know, you get this beautiful song of birds in the morning. You know, there's something about music and the way that it shapes our culture. And yeah, maybe it's best to ignore the modern music, but to listen to the birds. You know, I certainly find that the organic and natural sounds of these birds to be better than any of these modern songs these days. Let's do a Rocky. You know, Rocky being this myth, right? Rocky is not a real hero, but is something that is championed within the history of Philadelphia, it seems, you know, where people visit this location here outside of this beautiful art museum and reenact Rocky's run, right? Running up the steps, you know, championing the run, sort of holding the arms up high. You'll often see, you know, people doing that here. Actually, I think when you look at the reflection, it's like looking into a new world. It's like looking into a portal. Like, I think of video games and how you can sort of just jump into the portal and go into a new world. It's like all of the things that are often deemed as cliche, right? Whether it's photographing in the reflection or photographing in a particular way or a particular subject, I say that you should just do it anyway, because you never know what things may arise from that. And you know, I believe when you're photographing, it's best to use what you got, right? Whatever's in front of you. I see endless and infinite possibility. Sort of detaching yourself from right or wrong, good or bad, right? Maybe in terms of ethics and morals generally, you must go beyond these basic binary notions and find more nuance in the way that you live your personal everyday life, I think. And one of the thoughts I had actually recently while walking throughout the city of Philadelphia is, you know, do the weak envy the strong? You know, is it permissible for me to critique somebody who is beautiful? You know, but I'm not able, or I'm not permitted to critique somebody who is ugly? Right, when I think of this, I'm reminded of my time just the other day where I was walking through the streets without a shirt on, right? It's a beautiful hot summer day. And now, while this is certainly not a societal norm, you know, to walk throughout the streets without a shirt, and I'm well aware of that, you know, I think all of these societal norms and conventions are, you know, overrated at best and something worth breaking, you know, where I feel good when I have the sun kissing my skin. You know, I feel strong and beautiful without a shirt on, and I could count, you know, on my hand maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 times in that one walk for about 1 hour, you know, being told to put a shirt on. Or even at this one point, another man without a shirt was walking towards me, and he challenged me. He was like, yo bro, you know, no excuses. You know, OJ, yo, shout out to OJ, that dude was cool. Yeah, I remember I shared him my YouTube channel or whatever, but he was like, let's do some pull-ups, man, no excuses. And we started doing pull-ups on this bar, you know, where they have the construction sites, and this extremely weak, pale, anemic, you know, very thin man was walking by just in disgust, like, get down from there, you know, like, just put a shirt on, get down from there, like making some sort of remark that it was very much like this Karen, you know, that like meme of like the Karen, somebody who's always asking for the manager. I want to speak to the manager, you know, like that's what this man was, you know, he was basically acting like a Karen. Like, what is the male version of a Karen? To me, it's like, in those kind of situations, you kind of just turn the other cheek, right? I think there is some wisdom within the teachings of Jesus. I find that, you know, we are permitted to enjoy this world and in all of its beauty. Like, I think in terms of like ethics and morals and the way that you want to, you know, treat your life, you know, you can live in your little prison, you know, you can live in these boxes, you know, you can look at the world that way and see things in this very binary way where it's this way or that way, and you can't do this or you can't do that. Or you could be like me and OJ, just treating the street like a playground and using what we got, you know, looking around and trying to find ways in which we can conquer this street or conquer this medium of art. You know, for me, photography becomes this place for me to dominate, you know, where I find that the street, while it is this playground, right, it's also this arena for the warrior. It's something that requires courage for you to go out there into the unknown and to explore it. However, there are these weak people that I believe like to tear down the fun, right? And what are we to do about this but to turn the other cheek, but to ignore? You know, I think there is merit in ignoring. I believe in this because in my personal life, it's gotten me out of situations that could have been bad, right? I think of my time in Jericho, in this beautiful Palestinian city, the oldest inhabited city in the world, you know, the lowest elevated city in the world. It's such a beautiful place that I spent lots of time in. And during this 3-month period of time, you know, I found myself in a little bit of a pickle, you could say, right? Where I was photographing this young group of men, and they were all, you know, just hanging out, and we were enjoying. And this one man came up, and he was a bit aggressive, right? This guy was obviously the crazy one of the bunch. Thought he would be a cool guy and try to stunt on me and rip my camera off of my neck, and he actually wound up breaking my camera strap, and I did not react. I stood there firmly and held my ground. I didn't run away. I just continued. I just held the camera in my hand, and, you know, by ignoring and not reacting and not responding to this situation, right, this is what, you know, kept me safe. This is what kept me out of any negative or, you know, just bad situation where, you know, the man was then later scolded by the elders who respect me, and the men around all sort of just went about their business without making a sound. And, you know, this man was apparently on some sort of drug or something. I remember them trying to say, they were like, hydro, he's on hydro. I was like, oh, okay, hydro, sure. And so, yeah, maybe there is merit to that, because, you know, if I were to retaliate, right, if I were to just start fighting some guy in this community where I'm an outsider, I mean, what would that, you know, how would others perceive me? They would perceive me as a threat, but I am no threat. Maybe it's best to be this sort of calm and strong sort of rock that, you know, has the capability of, you know, being harmful or being a threat. However, you just keep it inside, you keep it within, and you don't show that aggression in these sort of situations. I think it's petty at best. But it really had me thinking about the ethics and the morals, of, if you will, of, you know, this notion of, you know, the weak envy the strong. You know, I really do believe that there's something there. to dive deeper into, because through my experience of walking the streets, you know, you kind of get torn down. It's like you're walking through the street getting tarred and feathered. And you know, there's something about being hated that kind of fuels you. It's in a funny way, you know, where you know, even some group of young men will like look at me and look at my shoes. Or one man had the audacity to say, oh, you know, and he was with the large group, you know, a large group of these like young guys that are always, you know, just showing weed or whatever degenerate thing they're doing, was like, you know, you trying to stunt on me, you trying to flex on me, because I was just walking with my Spartan physique. And you know, you just keep walking through, and then you know, it's like, what am I to do? You know, it's not my fault you're so basic and ugly. You know, it's not my fault that you're so unhappy. You know, but the joyful and the strong and the beautiful, you know, perhaps will always deal with the gremlins behind the scenes, sort of just tearing things at the, you know, at the strings, and sort of trying to tear others down. And you know, when someone looks at you and laughs at you or gives you a funny comment or something, what I do, I've been just looking back at them and just staring at them. And then you'll notice when you look at them directly in the eyes and you say nothing, they become so intimidated. They just like, and they like go down and like look back to their friend and like feel bad. It's like, sorry, not sorry kind of thing, you know? Like, there is something to be said about this. And these are just my experiences from this past week, and also from my travels. Yeah, and I think that to not react, to not respond, to ignore is a good notion. I also believe in the art of subtraction and removing superfluous distractions from life. You know, thinking earlier of music, you know, when you wake up in the morning, don't listen to music, right? When I wake up in the morning, I get right outside, because I know that this is where I thrive personally. And I find that the music of the birds in the morning, I mean, it's something that you can only catch during these certain hours where they sing and they provide you with this song, and, you know, you get to watch the sunrise and the beautiful colors. You know, it's certainly something that only occurs during this specific hour of time. And I would suggest not wasting that time with these degenerate sort of songs and music that is now on these platforms like Spotify or YouTube or all these social media sites. You know, maybe the biggest distraction in life are these platforms on the internet that provide endless sort of pleasure through media. And maybe the media that we produce, or better yet, the media that we consume, will then influence the culture and the society that we live in at large, where these things shape the way that people feel. You know, my theory is that a lot of music these days is very emotional. A lot of music, you know, it's about love lost and these feelings of sorrow. And even within the realm of hip hop and the music that's produced by these rappers and things, you know, there's this like a new style of rapping. And it's just degenerate. And I think maybe because the music is degenerate, then the culture degenerates and goes on decline. But there's something that's beautiful in the ways that you can find things like this, right? The Franklin Institute. I mean, look at this structure. Look at those columns, the detail. You know, when you surround yourself with these beautiful places, you know, whether it's in nature or on a walk through a street that has beautiful sculptures and architecture, you know, this uplifts the spirit, right? When I look at this warrior, this beautiful sculpture of the man looking out with this sword, right? There's something about this hero, you know, there's something about heroes, whether real, like that historical figure, or mythological, considering Achilles in ancient Greek mythology, or we have Rocky here in Philadelphia, and I think that they are heroes worth championing. I think that they are heroes worth emulating, right? It's not about how hard you can hit, but how much you can get hit and keep moving forward, right? Just taking all the arrows. I think that is something to be emulated and something to look at for inspiration. And I find my inspiration within these beautiful walks surrounded in nature and looking out towards sculptures and architecture. I mean, if you look at this cathedral here, this Catholic cathedral, what makes the Catholic Church so enticing is the art that it produces. When you go into a Catholic church, you know, this church over here, I mean, this basilica, I mean, it is just astonishing. You go in there and you can feel God, right? You feel the presence of God. You feel, you know, this immense appreciation for beauty and art, you know, considering the way in which it's constructed architecturally, or the paintings depicted of biblical stories on the walls. You know, there's something about being in the center of a church, looking up towards the dome and seeing God and seeing angels. You know, it sort of solidifies your belief in a way. And there is power in art and the way that it can shape a society. And maybe, you know, the Catholic Church's ability to be the patron for these great artists, considering Caravaggio and the works I saw in Rome last summer, I mean, it really does strike a chord in your soul. And for me, the most beautiful gallery, the most beautiful museum, it's within the church. You know, that's where the apex of beauty lies. It truly is within the church. There's the sunrise beyond that temple there. I'm not sure, is that the Mormon temple or something? But truly, you know, if you want to look at the apex of what beauty looks like, just go to Rome and just walk into any church throughout the streets. I specifically sought after these churches with the works of Caravaggio, as I'm really interested in his use of chiaroscuro and the way in which he used light. You know, it really is inspiring to me as a street photographer, painting with light. You know, where maybe the ultimate joy of photography is the fact that the world does become this canvas to draw upon using light itself. You know, the ultimate source of power in our universe. And when I consider motivation, it derives from your legs, it derives from the movement of your physical body. And I believe subtracting the superfluous and all of the external influences, whether it's validation of your work or sharing it for praise, you know, or even the idea of making the print and making the book and making the gallery, like all of these basic ideas, I think are no longer of my concern. And because of that, I remain in this, you know, spirit of play, just enjoying the process and just focusing on the moments that are fleeting in front of me. You know, where this sequence here of the shell, it's almost perfect, right? You know, when you look at that spiral, this sort of perfection that you find, the patterns of nature. However, when a human being creates something and depicts that perfection within nature itself, and make a sculpture, or we go to make a photograph, you know, it will always be imperfect, for humans too are imperfect. And you know, maybe embracing that within the process from the ground up of creating things is a good place to be. And I believe specifically within street photography, you know, the name of the game, it's in the mundane. And when you're out there walking on the street on repeat, well, you're not going to make something perfect. you know, you're always going to be making these imperfect compositions. It's impossible to make a perfect photograph. You know, you can study all of the masters and understand everything about composition and light, but you will never be a perfect photographer. You will never master this medium, for it is endless, and you can never make the same photograph twice. There's an infinite possibility within this medium, and I believe, you know, yeah, I believe this is what keeps me inspired, if you will. This is what keeps me coming back out here. It's the endless and infinite possibility that exists within the mundane, that exists within walking the same lane every single day. For you'll always find something new to say. You'll always find something to uplift in a photograph. You just have to open your eyes.